So welcome everybody to Camp Tintri. So we've got this really cool setup going on over the summer, and our whiz bang marketing team and graphic designer Matt did an amazing job of making the Camp Tintri signage and all the other accoutrements that go along with it, which are really cool. So today we have a manual of snapshots for DR and prevention as part of the official handbook to Tintri snapshots. Our guest today is Peter Purcell. I'll have him introduce himself here in a second. But just to let you know, everybody who does join the program today is eligible to win a Nintendo Switch, and not just any Nintendo Switch, but a branded Nintendo Switch that I have one here working. See, it's playing Luigi's Mansion 2, super fun. So we do give one of these away at every one of these sessions. It actually comes with a branded Tintri dock as well, which is really fun.
Wow.
So you're automatically entered if you attend the webinar. So thanks for coming to this, of course. So with that, I will introduce Peter Purcell. Peter, take it away.
All right. Thanks guys for joining, guys and gals. I'm Peter Purcell. I'm, as Steve said, a systems engineer. I've been with Tintri for about just a little bit over a year now. I've been in the industry for a while. You probably can go look me up on LinkedIn. Been around, been based in Southern California all my life. So previous jobs have been traveling all around the country, doing system engineering. So been in the industry for a while, and just happy to be here at Tintri. So it's been a good first year. So let's go. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the agenda. So basic agenda here is to give you some of the basics of what snapshotting is and what a snapshot is, and just it's rudimentary to what we do here at Tintri with our VM store. So some of you are already, some that are on a VM store and some that are not. We want to give you a perspective on what it is and how it works. Says, what is a snapshot? So what I did is I went, I looked at our documentation, kind of went out there and kind of looked at different definitions and looked at different systems out there, and kind of getting different perspectives. And one from VMware was saying, I put the link in there. It's from Broadcom at the bottom. The snapshot preserves the state of state and data of a virtual machine at a specific point in time. So I looked at that, and then other ones were saying, there were different references. Some were doing photos, some were doing trees, as far as like giving references to snapshotting. So, we have a definition as well, and I want to go through that as well. But basically, it's a point in time copy of data on a storage device, and it helps you to recover and be able to protect your data, and that's where it goes with the data protection and kind of disaster recovery protection plan. So I want to emphasize that up front. Back in the day, I used to work at Boeing, and we didn't we didn't have a security program, so we didn't have a security guy. And just an anecdotal story. I was at home about to go to work, and my boss called me, and I was watching I believe it was the Challenger, I think it was, or the Columbia. I always get confused. The one that broke up apart above Texas. Do you know which one that was, Steve?
That must have been Columbia.
So it was Columbia.
Yeah.
So my phone started ringing because I was on call, and my phone's ringing, and everybody's saying, NASA's calling, we need to get our data to them and sequestered within 24 hours, or we're going to get fined $1 million. And so I was on it. I didn't even go into work. I just kind of did everything from home. And it made me realize that, there's got to be layers within there, because there was other areas of data that was not protected through backups. And at the time, snapshotting wasn't that popular. So it was a big hassle. We didn't get fined, so I didn't get in trouble. So And so within VMware, I mean VM Store, we have different types of snapshots. And so there's crash consistent, and then I will go over the next one. So basically, it's a snapshot that captures the state of a virtual machine at that single point in time. And I kind of you'll hear that phrase over and over again because that's what it is, right? It's capturing it at that time, and so it preserves the right order of the data. It's similar to capturing an instance leading up to a server crash. So when a server crashes, it just, it captures that state. And then some of the benefits of it, you get the fast recovery. Well, I'll show in the demo how, recovering from a snapshot is such a, with us and comparative to like what VMware does is night and day. So improving uptime, so the crash consistent snapshots enable fast recovery times, as I mentioned, and reducing downtime from an overall system failure. And then, within us, crash consistent, we don't do any quiescing of the application, so that helps with some of their applications you have to like enable backup or get a add-on or something like that to an application to be able to do that, so they could quest the database or quest the application. And then VM consistent or application consistent, we talk about application aware, so the application knows about the snap, and it pauses whatever it is. If it's a database or an application, pauses it so that it can be temporarily ensure the consistency of it and maybe write it to disk, and then the snapshot happens. So within there, the application kind of controls that aspect of it. One of the other things is improve data integrity with the VM consistent snapshot. The snapshot processes in the data in a consistent and accurate way, reducing the risk of data corruption or loss. So those I believe it's back in Oracle days when I was working as a system admin at Boeing. We had Oracle, and what they would do is they had a piece that cost still remember, it was like we paid a certain amount. It was like $30,000 per like database for the Oracle to be able to get this quiescing on this add-on to be able to like do backups with our backup software. So eventually
Who knew hot backup mode would cost 30 grand?
yeah, exactly. Back then
That's back in the
just
day. We're dating ourselves, Peter.
oh yes. Yeah, you probably remember those days too. I was like 30 grand. Like, can we do
Unfortunately, I do.
something?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. What was it called? RBAC, or what was it called?
Armin.
Oracle. RMAN. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, definitely.
There's a shout out. Who remembers Arman in the text or in the group? Yeah. That's a good
Yes.
one for everybody. Who
Yes,
has
RMAN.
PTSD from RMAN?
That's perfect. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. So, and then, this is kind of like leading into like a storage array, manage what we do. We manage the snaps, outside of, VMware. That's why we are kind of doing this series to let you know the snaps for us are rudimentary into what we do. And they actually lead us into cloning, sync VM and other things that we do. We take that snap. So we are able to hold that integrity of that state. So and we can do it at a multiple VM level or at an array level as well. And then one of the benefits of that is being able to just when you're on different systems that are not ours, if you have that event and you're snapshotting the entire LUN or volume, there's a difficult process to go through to try and restore that if only one system was affected, right? So we need to make sure with us we can do that from one to multiple to array level snapshot. So we I know a lot of people who just do backups and they don't really do the snapshots after talking to customers for over a year now. And, kind of, okay, at first I didn't really think about it. And as I start thinking about it, within this environment, I'll talk later at the end of the show some statistics at the end of the presentation about, you know, ransomware and different things like that, and how you need to prepare that. You know, you get into that area of ransomware and being down. It's like you have to prepare for it. Like someone was saying, you know, it's like driving around your car and not having insurance, and when you get into one, saying, "Well, I didn't think I was going to need it." So
Yeah, tell that to the guy you crashed into,
exactly,
right?
right. And
Yeah.
I live out here in California, so they mandated it for everything. So they, you know, you have to have liability insurance. I don't know around the other states, but if they all kind of follow the way of California, but that's how it worked. So and
Well,
then
if
we
you're
go
following
into
the typical 3-2-1 methodology of data protection, right? You
yes.
have to have local snapshots. That's just something you have to have. It's simple as
And I'm
that.
glad you brought that up. You know,
Yeah,
that's one of the things be outside of, you know, if some people are here or not, you know, on VM Store or just kind of looking at it, you know, you have to have snapshots. They're a valuable tool within your arsenal of recovery, because, you know, I've seen it. I went on is it bleeping computer, or yeah, there's a
bleeping
website,
computer.
bleepingcomputer.com or some bleep
Like it
computer.
already. I love the
Yeah,
name.
there where you can go and excuse me, you can see where a lot of the security holes are coming in, and they're saying still 80% of the security breaches are done by human error, right? So and so they tell you how you have to have this layered approach to doing that, because the first thing they do, which we probably all know, they go after the backups. They go straight to the backups, try and, you know, disable or encrypt the backups, and then they
Sure.
go after your data. So, you know, and with ours, you know, we have that immutability with ours, and you know, which helps us to be able to you know, get you back up quickly. Not to say it's the panacea for everything, but it's, like I said, it's a layered approach. You got to have layered backups, snapshots. You know, you're doing replication, you're doing something else. You have to have a layered approach. So and then hypervisor managed, that, you know, that's VMware and Hyper-V. You know, I'll show you in the demo how we have integration with the hypervisor, so that we're able to take snapshots and then still manage them from within our system and within vSphere. So you know, one of the benefits of that with the hypervisor is snapshots can be used to create backups of VMs, but most of the time it's just like, you know, all in one, almost kind of like a, you know, you know, iCloud backup. You know, you backed up everything, and now trying to pull a piece out of it. It's like now you got to go get a third party application because I want to save all my messages before I go to a new phone. So I'm actually, that's a true story. I'm actually working on that right now. I have a old iPhone 8 that I'm trying to
iPhone 8. Oh my goodness.
yes, I have an
Now we're
old
really dating
iPhone 8.
ourselves.
I, I, well, just anecdotal story again. I hate the fact that Apple didn't go to a USB-C plug, and I refused to move to the new phone until it came USB-C. So
Oh, so you're just a
it's just
lightning hater. Is
one
that
of
what it
those
is?
technical things you go through, right? So,
You like the scene in The Jerk where he goes, he hates these cans. It's like, no, he's not shooting at the cans. He's shooting at you. You
yeah,
you just hate the
exactly,
lightning port. That's all. So now they went to
exactly.
USB-C. It's all good now. All
Yes. Yeah. Now
all
I like
sins are forgiven.
universal connectivity, right? Everything's
That's
going
hysterical.
USB. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. So I'm gonna just read this for just a little bit of this. It says snapshots are the foundation of almost every data management operation in VM store. So kind of let that sink in. So when we kind of look at, like I mentioned before, clones, VM, sync VM, and different things like that, we do a snapshot within our system. And so the snapshots you know, are intended for recovery, but can be used for patching, cloning. You know, there's I was going to say it later on, but there's a, you know, everybody knows the phrase CYA. And I say we do a CYS, cover your snap. You know, you want to at least have a snap, right? Like to be able to say, hey, I messed up. Let me go back. You know, let me go back to what just occurred, so I don't have to like go to my boss and say, I did a procedure during production hours and it didn't work out.
I think we
And
coined the phrase on one of these geek outs. We call it the resume generating event insurance, right?
insurance. I didn't never heard that one. I heard of
Right? We were
resume
talking
gener
about insurance earlier. That kind of, you know, piqued my mind there. So,
right.
well, it's kind of
And
what it is, right? I mean, if you pick the wrong server, I mean, how many VMs do a lot of people have in their environments? Thousands, right? And
yes,
if you especially if you have a very complicated naming convention, you might pick the wrong one. It's not that hard. So if
I'm
you do something like, you know, some kind of ransomware reversion or something like that, you got to have a way to get out of it if you pick the wrong one. So that's a great
exactly.
point.
Yeah. And then as I mentioned before, the snapshot technology is does for protecting, cloning, replicating, and restoring VMs. And so we have VMware aware storage, and it basically is a computer data storage designed to facilitate management and monitoring of a virtual machine within a virtual environment. And that's how VM Store was born, right? We don't have to we have a single point mount NFS within our system. So and then as you can see down there, number two, and I've stated it already, use snapshots as part of your data protection strategy. That might be a good question right there's Steve. The people who are on, they don't have to be on VM Store, but do they have snapshots enabled with now, and then how often, if they do they if they ever have to go back to them? It'd be a good question to know in the chat, if saying I have snapshots enabled within my infrastructure.
Yeah, maybe how many people are using array-based snapshots in their data protection scheme, right? That's a good
Yes,
question.
exactly.
Yes or no,
Exactly.
whatever, right?
Yes. Perfect.
So pop that in the chat, guys. And by the way, if you have other questions you want to ask either myself or Peter, just drop those in the chat too. Keep the shout outs coming. I noticed Irmo, South Carolina. I have no idea where that is. My sister lives in Columbia, so I know where Columbia is, but I have no idea where Irmo is.
Well, 2 weeks
I'll have to
ago,
look that up.
I was in Aiken. So where
Aiken.
is Aiken? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
Is that suburban Irmo? Is Aiken a suburb of Irmo? I have no idea. I'm not a
I
South Car.
don't know.
They call it South Kakalaki down there. I have no idea why. I always thought
Yeah.
that was funny. It's a funny
Well,
name.
as I mentioned before, I'm from California, so a lot of Southern California. So a lot of people, the closest border place to us is Tijuana, Mexico.
Right.
But to get to any other place, it's like 3-4 hours going up north. Maybe to go to Oregon is a long time. But I was down there in Aiken, and we were staying in Georgia and driving 15-20 minutes to get
Go
to
to South
Aiken.
Carolina.
We just
Yeah.
stay in Aiken.
Okay. We got to draw
So
borders somewhere. Yeah.
yeah, right. Is everything's like kind of close over there. So
Well, if you live in LA, it takes you 3 hours to get to the drugstore. So, you don't have to
uh,
cross international lines to take a 3 hour trip. That's for sure.
yeah, I had a colleague once before come in from Texas, wanted to stay in Hollywood. He had to stay in Hollywood. And we were going to Century City. I don't know if any of you guys know the area, but it's about 6 miles as the crow flies. It took us like 40 minutes just to get from Hollywood to there.
Yeah.
It
It's
was
crazy.
great. It's crazy.
Everybody's
So,
got LA traffic horror stories for sure.
exactly, exactly. Yeah. So, another data protection thing is, it's our snapshots are used for our non-intrusive recovery for DR sites as well. You can bring up a snapshot on a VM without the risk of changing the live data, and that's one of the biggest things that I will want to tell you is, you set that insurance, right? As we talked about, you set up that insurance to be able to know that you can roll back, right? That's one of the key things. And it says VMstore offers recovery point objectives as low as 15 minutes with asynchronous replication and or zero RPO and near zero recovery times with RTOs with sync replication. So, it's possible to have a rapid restore from OSs, reducing downtime and even creating, restoring to a new disk, a new drive. So I think our last Geek Out, we talked about TCP, Tintri Cloud Platform, and how that works within, using disaster recovery, aspects of that, because this is a data protection disaster recovery tool, right? So we want everybody to understand that, and then our TCP could be an extension of that to be able to use any of our tools or snapshotting or replication or backups to be able to use our TCP. So if you guys missed that, that'd be a good one to go back and look at. And I don't know about you, Steve, but I've been getting a lot of traction with TCP.
Yeah, Sam
People,
Newton did a great job in our last Geek Out talking
yeah,
about that topic. Yeah, so
yeah,
that satisfies a lot of the offsite requirements of the 3-2-1 methodology, right? So
exactly.
it's kind of the easy button.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
So, we talked about it, the insurance and everything. I think, in this level, I talk to customers, and I haven't been as bold about it as much, talking to them about, their DR. But I think, after plunging in and getting into this more, I think, preparing for what could happen or might happen is the best procedure, and not thinking that it's not going to happen. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I looked at this and kind of setting up this presentation and talk with you guys is to prepare for it. Just have it prepared. In the days dating ourselves in the days before VMware, trying to do the disaster recovery was like if you spend $150,000-$200,000 in your infrastructure, you got to pay another $250,000 and $200,000 for a DR infrastructure someplace else, right? So it was like double the cost. Now, the costs are like a third of what you need to do now. You don't have to buy alike systems. You can go to the cloud, so you can do those things. So, besides the snaps, just look at that data protection, disaster recovery as well. And myself, Steve, and others within the Tintri team can actually talk to you about those things, and that TCP, like Steve said, kind of fix that 3-2-1 that you can be off site somewhere. So
Yeah, it's a great use case for the cloud because you can kind of thin provision all the CPU and memory across a lot of different clients because not everybody's using it, right?
yes,
So it's a
yes,
great way to leverage those resources properly, and therefore you save a lot of money by not being dedicated.
exactly.
So we did have a question come in. Philip asked, "Do VM store snapshots dedupe, or is that not required due to the original object being thin provisioned?"
Do so they're do they do dedupe? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the snapshots are all incremental. So there, it's only going to capture what's changed since the last snapshot.
Okay.
So essentially, dedupe in this case means that snapshot contains all the blocks that are common, if you will. So yes, it's dedupe. We only save the changes. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's right. Because it's a point of the master. So everything is kind of deduped
Right.
from there. Okay.
Right. Incremental always. That Philip just said that. Yes, that's correct. And by the
Increment.
way, just as a geography lesson here. So the town of Irmo, South Carolina, is across Lake Murray from where my sister lives. She actually lives in Lexington, which is a western suburb of. It's in Lexington County. So you are my neighbor, or my
Mm,
sister's neighbor. Excuse me. So I'm not going to tell you who she is. So there'll be no stalking or anything like that. But she lives in Lexington. So just wanted to clear that up. Okay, geography lesson over.
yeah. Any other questions?
Nothing yet. I'll let you know.
Yeah. And
Keep
then
them coming.
yeah, I wanted to cover I mentioned it before, VMware's best practices for using snapshots. The three that are in highlighting are, prior to this, Steve gave a great explanation on how this actually happened, and why you would if you're on VM store, you would want to use our snapshots comparative to the VMware's snapshots. They have a maximum of 32 within theirs, and then as you can see, this is directly from their website. They only want you to use 2 or 3 snapshots, and don't let them linger, because not getting to kind of understanding what you're saying, they're kind of, the way they were built, they were kind of layered, so that's
Mhm.
why it actually starts to bog down the system from within VMware. I don't know if you have a quick and
So if you really want to go into the weeds on this, those of you who are watching, so there was a webinar that we did probably 4 or 5 years ago. It was called Best Practices for Snapshot Heavy Environments, and it is an eye opener. It is amazing. So that the hour they spend is exactly how, and it's not meant to be a diss in any way. It's just a matter of explaining how the methodology works within VMFS in this case, or actually just vSphere snapshots in general, not necessarily VMFS, but how it works. And it's really, really, it's an interesting watch. It's like I said, it's 4 or 5 hours old. So
Yeah.
so Phillips says VMware snapshots are a time bomb. Yes, and they admit to that
Yes.
in their best practice, which is actually quite interesting. So
Yes.
yes. So Lynn James asked, how does Tintri ensure that data administrators are prepared for any situation?
Hmm.
Use snapshots? I don't know. Peter, what do
Snapshots.
you think?
I would say, use snapshots, make sure you have sync VM
Mhm.
going. Uh, Make sure you have a DR replication. I think one of the biggest things in it, if I can say, is like a DR plan or a process to move there. One of the things that I work with law firms is having it kind of blew my mind. They're saying you have to have a process, even if you just write down on a piece of paper and send it, says, okay, this is what we want to do, and then you can hand it to the compliance officer, and as long as you stated that you're going to do this, you're in compliance. And I'm like, well, that was kind of weird. You could just say it and not really like implement it. And so I
We
would
used to call
say
that a run book back in the day,
that
right?
that's what it was, right? The run
Right?
book was
It's a
right
run
on
book.
top, right on top of
What
it.
do I do when this happens? Oh, I pull this off the shelf and do what's in here,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
It's
So
like that scene in Doctor Strangelove when they get the code and they have to pull out a book and say, okay, what do we do with this code? And they're like, oh crap, that means drop the bomb, right?
yes, exactly.
Something like that. You have a whole bunch of contingencies, and based on what information you receive, you have to do whatever's in this book, right?
Yes,
Right.
yes, exactly.
So
So yeah, within that run book. So I would
mhm.
say to be prepared, and I kind of mentioned it before, kind of have that layered approach. Start looking at maybe hardening your backups, looking at snapshots, and I'll be specific more to the people who are on VM Store. Have a you have sync VM enabled and working, test it kind of regularly as far as what you're doing, and then have a DR strategy. Maybe take one or two VMs that you have, maybe look at we mentioned it before, the TCP, right? Start looking at, maybe, doing the back, because we have within there, we have backup as a service, disaster recovery as a service, and infrastructure as a service within our TCP. So uh from my knowledge and what I've been going through, usually most of my conversations with DR are kind of around backups first. They want to back up. They want to get their data offsite, going to that 3-2-1, right? Having some data offsite. And then they start to say, well, I don't want just my backups offsite, but can you like turn them on if I want to, or have them like warm standby? I'm like, yeah, we can do that. It's called DR as a service. So, I would definitely look at that. And those there's probably a couple others things you can do, but I would say just start with that so that you can be prepared. You always want to, the old analogy in Windows was you can, there's always three ways to do something in Windows, right? You can click the start button, or you could do something else, or go somewhere to get to the control panel, or do something. So always have like different layers of ways that you can do that, and get with the DR and BC. I think one of the biggest things that we overlook within um, being say an IT admin or being the support for a company is the downtime. There's some websites out there that can measure the downtime based off of the employees, and there's a calculator that can tell you how many employees, what their kind of their roles are, and different things, and it'll spit out per hour amount of downtime and what it's costing a company. And then those are like ghost numbers, because nobody really looks at those, but those are some of the things that within as an admin you want to like look at, because if you're down for like say 72 hours, what did it cost you? What did it cost the company? Sometimes those are like hidden costs, or just buried and they don't really see it. So that would be one of my things that I would say to do that. have that layered approach, start, using some of the tools that you have within there, prepare for a breach, and what do you do when it happens, and then have a disaster recovery plan so that if something happens, you prepared for it. We can run our infrastructure in the cloud until we figure out and do a remediation and figure out what happened. I hope that helps.
I think it does. Any
Yeah.
other questions? Bring them. So Phillips
Yeah.
says those calculators only show costs, not lost revenue or organizational damage costs. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And those are some of the things that I think. And so
Well,
when
opportunity cost, if you will. Like what are you paying for not being able to transact business, for example? Right?
right. And I think those numbers, and who was that said that?
Philip.
Philip, Philip, that's such a poignant point, because those are the costs that the C-level guys, they don't think about, right? But what you guys, maybe the bean counter, the CFO, he probably might look at those. I think those are some of the things that can help, um, accelerate and maybe even make your job better by being able to saying, hey, we can, if we're down, here are the other external costs that are going to cost us being down, right? And they're like, well, how did you come across that? And then you can start having those conversations. When I was at I'll use Boeing again. When I was at Boeing, one of my bosses, he told me, he says, he goes, you need to let people know when you're helping them. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he says, if people don't know if you're helping them, then they don't know. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was doing all this work and doing this stuff and preparing, but nobody ever thought, nobody knew that what I was doing was trying to help the company and get prepared and have systems in place. So I after that point, I started one day, I just kind of like looked at the metrics because we were running out of disk space and the backups were getting full. We're spending over close to $200,000 of a year in tapes. So I was like,
A
I
lot of
need
tape.
somebody else to know this. So I just started putting their my manager, the director, and everybody on the report generation website on, you could put a little email, and they started getting these reports within like, because it would go off at like 6 in the morning. At like 7 o'clock, I was getting calls. What is this? Is this true? Are we running? I was like, yes. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now it's not my burden to bear. And that's one of the things. And Steve, it goes back to what you're saying, resume generating event, insurance.
Right.
Because
Right.
if they come to you and say, did you know this? Hey, Pete, did you know this? Like, yeah. Well, why you didn't tell anybody? Then you're the lone guy that they can look at because nobody else knew. So
Well, in my view and my experience, the best run businesses are the ones that know exactly what that cost is.
yes.
So if you know exactly what it would cost you if you were down for a day or a week, you can then make decisions based on that, right? So I'm old enough to, again, we're dating ourselves. It was over 30 years ago. I was working at IT at Ford Motor Company, and they knew exactly what the cost was per hour if their designers were not designing parts and cars in our program. They knew exactly what the monetary value was. So they
Wow.
knew if we were down for 3 hours and it was my fault or somebody else's fault, they knew, well, that cost us 60 grand or whatever, right? They knew exactly what it was. And I
Right.
think I think you have to because that helps you make decisions in the right way to alleviate that cost if it does happen or prevent it from happening, obviously. But you can
Right.
make an investments to say, if I invest $10,000 here, it might save me from a 4 hour outage that would cost me 80 or something like
Yes.
that. Right.
Yes. It goes to that insurance, right? That
Right.
10,000 where they're looking at budgetary. Well, you're already at your budget and we can't give you another 10,000. But if you administrators out there frame it in a way to saying this $10,000 could, and especially if you've had downtime at your company or there's been outages, you look at those numbers and you give that to them, the burden's off of you. Now it becomes the financial, uptime burden is on whoever makes those decisions. And now it's not in your hands. And now you can, we all go to sleep fine, but now you can rest assured that you're not the one, holding that burden. I think there was an article I saw that within CISOs, they only last like the average time that a CISO lasts at a company was like 18 months because of the burdens of
Wow.
security. Yeah, I was reading it
Okay.
out. trying to dig it
That's
up
interesting.
again. Maybe it's a little bit longer, but they cycle through them because of the pressures and everything that come from, making sure they don't get breached. Because you're the first person, if you're a CISO, you're the first person they're going to come to. What happened? You know,
Sure.
yeah.
That's
So,
part of the
and
job.
yeah,
So,
exactly. And that leads us into ransomware attacks. And I kind of mentioned it before. So, within your strategy, you need to be able to know that there's um actually it was one customer, I think it was a school district. I talked to them about 4 months ago. They were doing something with their firewalls, and then they needed to open up some ports to be able to do some transactions with a third party application. And within that time, they opened it up. They had, within like 6 hours, they had 10,000 attacks within that port.
honeypot.
10,000.
Yeah. They created their own honeypot. I
Exactly.
wouldn't recommend that.
So it's like, you gotta protect yourself that area, and kind of just, make sure that you're set within there. And so, this is just some statistics that not statistics, but just information that I put here. There's infected over 300,000 Windows PCs within, 150 countries. And then there it goes. There's no longer an excuse to ignore the threat. You have to prepare for it. This is like, I live in California, so everything's like earthquake, retrofitting. It's a big business, right? They come and they can inspect your house and make sure that everything is kind of there, right? And those people that are on the webinar who are living, hurricane areas is like, or yeah, tornadoes. If you don't have a shelter, it's like, living there knowing that you get like 6 a year or something that come through. You have to have, they're built with, storm shelters, right? So it's like, I'm going to build this new house but no storm shelter. So you got to like know your threat landscape and know where you're at.
Well, the same is
Also,
true in IT, right? If you try to go get cyber insurance, what's the first thing they're going to ask? What's your plan, right?
yes.
And they're going to charge you based on how prepared you are. And are you following 321? What's your RPO? What's your RTO? All these different things. And they're going to charge you different rates based on that. So,
I'm so glad you brought that up, Steve. I just went to a conference about 3 months ago, downtown LA, and they were talking about the rate of denial of cyber insurance. It was crazy. They were
and what
saying
is
that
that rate? Is
it,
it
it was
go?
like,
I'm assuming it's going up.
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
between 30 and 40%. And then they were only paying out partial to some people.
Because they didn't take measures to alleviate cost,
Right,
right?
because during
Yeah.
during the remediation, when they were looking at it and going through
Hmm.
it and saying, "Well, you didn't you told us you had this patch, you had this going, you had backups, you had
Mm.
snaps, you had this," and as we found out, you didn't have any of this, so we're only going to give you a third of your insurance.
Yeah. So that we did a series a while back with Mike Brunetti of Antara. Antara is a remediation specialist company.
Mhm.
And I did a 3-part series with him. You can look it up. Just search Tintri Talk In and you'll find it out there.
Ask
I
my refer-
learned so much from that series. I was blown away by how much I learned from Mike. It was
Oh yeah,
awesome. And he
yeah,
talked a lot about that. He talked about cyber insurance and how that industry works. And as you mentioned, people are slacking off on being prepared. So the
yes,
insurance companies, in order to keep it affordable, they have to cut benefits or claims for the
yes,
people that are unprepared, right? And
yes,
so they're more stringent, right?
yes. Most definitely. And I watched a little bit of that, and then they were saying that they have these like 10, 15 page like applications where they're asking you these questions, and it's almost like if you ever watch any of these crime shows, they put them in the room and they say, "So tell me where you were yesterday. What did you
Yeah.
do?" And they lock you into a
It's a
story.
deposition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then when you fill out that paperwork, that's locking you into a
Yeah.
story
You better do
saying
those things.
yes.
Yep.
And when they come up after you've been hit and they says, "Well, you said you did all
Uh-huh.
this and none of this was done." So, and
So
that's what's
you're
happening.
SOL, as they say in
Exactly.
the legal space. Yes.
Exactly. Yep. And so, and one of the things, if you guys get hit by ransomware, there's only two things. You either like, restore from backup if you still have a backup, or you have the multi-layer approach of, backups, snaps, and different things, DR that you could recover to, because, I've heard people say, yeah, we got hit, but I told them to go, bleep themselves, because we had DR in another place, and we had been replicating, and they didn't know about it, and we were able to get back up. And then others just have to pay the ransom, right? Their business is down, and there's a number, I think it was like, I think it was close to 50%, not 50% of like the businesses that got hit with ransomware just
Actually
went out
paid.
of existence. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They just went out of existence. They just stopped being a
Oh,
business.
they went out of business because they wouldn't pay, or they couldn't afford to pay.
Yes.
And so that downtime just added up to the point where they just couldn't maintain the business, and out they go.
Yeah. All their intellectual data, property,
Wow.
all that stuff was gone. They didn't have money to pay, so they just stopped
Mm,
existing as a company. Stopped just
brutal.
business. So yeah. Any questions we got?
So we had one kind of novel. I'll paraphrase, but he was just saying you can't use VMware snapshots as part of a backup strategy, just based on some of the limitations that you mentioned earlier. So he's just validating that statement. So
Yeah, perfect.
yeah.
And then I have this slide here. I know it's kind of busy. I kind of separated it. Maybe I should have put it in two different slides, but what I wanted to do, because it's a info slide where it shows you the different things that are going on within the industry. And you guys that are admins, you should start kind of looking at this ransomware and this security profile. One of the things as well is like, I'll say this tongue in cheek, but we here at Tintri, we don't want to create storage admins. We want to create people who data management, right? We want you to be able to manage your data, and from whatever aspect. And so well, one of the things that I've noticed when I came over here, I've heard people say that they only call us for two reasons. Either they need more disk space, or they forgot the password to their VM store.
It happens.
Yeah, you
It
you have
happens.
you probably have tons of stories, Steve, but I had
Oh yeah.
a customer, we called him up. He had some 850s and 855s. He been running for 8 years. He forgot that his infrastructure were running on.
I'm telling you, it happens more often than you think.
Oh yeah, that's
It's pretty
I
incredible.
yeah, for
Yeah.
those that are out there, I say that's our best thing, and it could be our worst thing, because people don't really know that they're running their infrastructure on us, and it's so smooth, right? So they don't see that. But we're here to kind of let you know the things that we're doing, and that are going on with us.
So Phillips
So
did have another question. So he said, is there an ability to archive snapshots to a second Tintri device to get them off site?
yes, I think there is, right? Can we do that?
Short answer is yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we have a lot of customers that use multiple sites. They cross-replicate. Some of the other geek outs that we've done in the past talk about service groups, to be able to pick certain VMs or certain groups of VMs and be able to set a certain schedule for them and have it be automated. So I'd recommend you go back in our Geek Out series, Philip, and go check that out. So yeah, absolutely can do that. So Philip says they're too quiet. VM stores are too quiet in the infrastructure. That's a blessing and a curse if I've ever heard one.
That's
They're
exactly
so
it.
good you never deal with them. Well, that's a good thing. If you're an admin, you can deal with other stuff, right? We talk about
Right.
this a lot. But if it's out of sight, out of mind, that could be a great thing because you can spend all your time doing other stuff. But sometimes you forget to upgrade it, right? And we'll send you pings about when upgrades come out and so forth. Um, so Philip says that's a scathing endorsement. I love that. I'm going to steal that. That's really good. A scathing
Yes.
endorsement.
Yes. That's
That's
good.
funny.
I just wanted to pick a couple from here, as far as, as you can see the rate, right? It says 59% of organizations were hit by ransomware in the last year. And that kind of like helps, stamp what, Steve and myself have been talking about as far as preparing for that, right? Getting prepared, having that, you know, strategy, and that's a big number. That's 60%.
That's a big number.
That's huge number.
Big number.
And so we need to make sure that we, you understand that. And then what did they say? 94, then the next one, 94% of the victims said attacks targeted their backups. So if
Well,
you're back,
here's the crazy thing. Look at the smaller one underneath that. 57% of backup compromise attempts were successful. Yikes.
yes,
You got it. So one of the things we talk about, I hate pimping the talk-in thing again. You got to air gap those credentials so that
hmm
you can't go in and start whacking backups.
yes,
You have to. That's like rule number one. You
yeah,
have to protect those backups from the attacker for sure.
yes,
Because if you have backups, you ain't paying the ransom. So of course that's why they're going to go after it.
yes,
So
yeah. And oh, one other thing I wanted to say, uh, um, even now they're actually not just like ransoming the data, they're actually mining the data. So one law firm that I'm working with, a law firm that got hit, they were actually going into the files, looking at cases, looking at divorce cases, telling their
oh
the
jeez.
attorneys
Oh
that, "Hey,
no.
we see all this information that's like privy into a case that's not being publicized, that's got maybe
Privileged
a
information. Yeah.
privileged
Yay, yay,
information."
yay.
So it's getting
Not
even
good.
worse now. So now they're just, first, what did we, the attack started with just guys messing around. Oh, I got in, yeah. Then guys got in and like, stealing data. Now it's like, we don't want to steal it. We just want to like make you pay for us having,
Monetize it. Yeah.
yeah, monetize it. And now
Yeah.
they're going in and one of the biggest things is law firms getting hit, going in, looking at cases, looking at notes, and different things like that. And they contact a law firm and saying, "Hey, we have your data," and they're like, "Oh, we don't care. We have backups." And then it says, "Well, we're going to go in those case files and start, letting that information out about your clients."
We could tell it to opposing counsel. What are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So,
So Philip brings up a great point. Do not use domain credentials for backup appliances. Amen.
amen.
Do
Yeah.
not. Because the first thing these hackers will do, and Mike talks about this a lot in the talk-in, is they will try to get domain admin privileges, and everything that has domain admin privileges, they will compromise.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's the
Yes.
easiest, that's the least path of resistance, right?
Exactly.
Path of least resistance. Yeah.
Yep. And then on the other side, on the right side, we talked about the ransom. There's about $2 million is like the starting ransom. It's averaging out around 600,000 now, and companies are paying for it. And then this one is data restoration. Is like 98% of organizations recover from encrypted data. But you says the methods is they use the backup 68%. And then what did we talk about it? You either pay it or go to backups. So 68% on backups, and then 56% paid it.
Yeah.
More than
Yeah.
half.
Yeah. That's unreal.
And you as admins, you think about that. Look at how much you could purchase if the average cost, let's just say with this thing, $2 million is the average cost now. That was a couple of years ago. Let's just say it's 2 million. You could buy your infrastructure over what, 4 or 5 times with $2 million, maybe
Maybe.
3
Yeah.
times.
Depends on the size of the organization, but maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I think that was it. I hope that helped. I want to break out of here real quick. My, my,
Keep the questions coming, those of you out there, if you have additional questions. But he's gonna geek out here for a few more minutes, so we still have time.
yes, just for a few minutes. I want to show you something real quickly. So, I was talking to one of my colleagues, and he has this VM that we do a show ransomware. There's snapshots, like I said, snapshots at base level, and then we do cloning, sync VM, and everything on there. So I want to kind of show you guys how we do that. So I'm going to go ahead and I believe it's open already. Yeah.
Oh, the web interface, the web console,
Yeah.
bane of my existence.
Yes, I know.
Looks like it's coming back. Maybe.
Ah,
Maybe.
there
There
it
it
goes.
is.
Okay, so I'm gonna start from here. So I'm gonna open up this this folder, and we have an E drive here. And then we have very important data. As you can see within this file system, we have some pretty large files, some other files and everything. And then we have an infected file here. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on this infected file. And basically it's a PSR ransom. And it's going to go ahead and you come up and you're like, oh man, all my files got
Uh-oh.
infected. Oh, what just happened? You know,
What?
so now I think I could just break it.
Who
Oh,
wrote such a tool? What kind of an evil, you know what, writes a tool like that? Really?
exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So
Those are
now,
like 200, those are like 200 megabyte files.
yeah.
Holy smokes. Okay. Wow. That was
So now
fast.
I can go back in. And so looking at here, so this snapshots is most of you guys are VMware admins is for VMware. And here within here, we can do ours. So hopefully all of you guys who are VM store have would you call this the magic menu?
I like that. The magic menu.
Didn't you? That's your phrase.
Is
I
it?
thought you said magic menu.
Okay. I call it the Tintri.
Geek
Maybe the
Outs, you said
magic
magic
happens in the
menu.
Tintri. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. So,
Let's see the
you can have
magic happen.
and then you can do a, a recovery. So basically I go into the snapshots and I want to do a synchronize. So what I want to do is restore that VM. And so I'm going to go here and I'm going to pick the VM. Oh, it's not there yet. Hold on. I need okay. Is this it? No, that's not the one.
Well, 1050, you might want to go back to like 1045 before you started encrypting.
Yeah,
So this is kind of the trick, right? What's the RPO of trying to find the least amount of loss based on when that event happened? So I don't know if that
exactly.
event happened before or after 1050. So
Let me see if I can refresh this because I'm looking for that other the the other VM, the the temp the temp one that it creates. Let's see. Hope it's there. This is live stuff, guys. So bear
oh,
with
the
me.
safety snapshot.
Yeah,
So it'll only create a safety snapshot if you go back in time or go forward. If you execute a sync VM action, it'll create a safety snapshot for you. You have a bunch of scheduled ones on here.
yeah. I got to get rid of those because they keep happening. So let's just
Yeah,
go back to this one because I
that's
tried
a
it
good one.
before. I tried it before, and then I want to make sure this is the right one. So it worked here. So now if I go back into here and then do a refresh, bear with me.
So that VM rebooted,
Yep.
and the data in there is going to be as of 1045 when that snapshot was taken.
I'm hoping that was the one because I have another VM that's doing snapshots, and I don't know if it's I picked the right one.
Well,
So
let's look at that data and see if it's 200 megs.
yeah. So this comes up because it's crash consistent. And so let's go in here. Yes. And the
Hey, look
data.
at that. So part of the
So
remediation process, you get to figure out how close to the event can you get, right?
correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the ability to do iterations very quickly is obviously very important. So
Yes. Yeah. And then this is not just from an event. This could be fat fingered, could be, somebody did, something and say, hey, my VM, normally we don't restore DevOps or anything like that, but you have a lot of admins or DBs that want to like, I just messed up. Can you restore that VM for me? And then, you can go back and restore that VM. So, you'll be their hero.
full
So
hero mode for sure. Of course.
exactly.
Yes.
So that was pretty much it, guys. I appreciate all your time. I thanks for watching. Hopefully I can come back and do another one and do something interesting as well.
Well, we'd love to have you again. So thank you, Peter. Any final questions? Throw them on the chat. As I mentioned earlier, so those of you who had joined us, you're automatically entered into the drawing to win the branded Nintendo Switch I think it was Philip that said it earlier. Yes, you can use it on work time because it's branded with a work thing. So if you have a VM store, I will make the case to your boss that you can play it on. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm not sure I want to get into that whole thing.
Hey Steve, you got to it's the new controller for our VM store.
You know what? If we could write like a VM store UI and stick it on here, right,
Mm.
to match the branding on the back, that'd be kind of slick, right? So
Yes.
yeah, Philip, I don't want to get in that line of business. The liability is way too off the charts there.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
anyway, so yeah, so watch your email. We will contact you over email if you're the winner. So, and we'll ship it out to you. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today. We will have you back at some point.
Yes, thank
Great
you, Steve.
job.
It was great.
And look forward to our next event. We're going to be doing a barbecue event later this month. I believe it's on the 24th. I think that's right. We're going to be doing, we're kind of resuming that whole barbecue thing that we were doing for a while. That was super fun. And we're really looking forward to that. So with
Hey,
that, go ahead, Peter. I'm sorry.
Steve, I was saying maybe we can fry some pure steak in a reference to pure steak.
We'll get a brand for it or something. I don't know. We'll do something crazy.
Exactly.
I don't know. Actually, our logos are both hexagons, so that would kind of work.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe do like a battle of the day. I don't know, whatever. So Scott Thomas is the grillin' fool is the guy we do these barbecue events with, and he's really great. So maybe we'll think of something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he has planned for us. It's always chaos on that event. So if you haven't seen one, please join us for that. Watch your emails for the marketing material on that. So with that, we'll sign off for this Geek Out. We will see you next time. Thank you, Peter. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Steve.